Hello and welcome to Mr. Thompson's math tutorial. Today what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at how do I find the vertex of a parabola. So we're finding that point just there. Now it's a little hard to see, but this is this equation. Oops, I'm sorry, not plus 5, but minus 5x plus 6. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to use the factored form to help me find the exact location of the vertex. I can kind of tell where it is. It's sort of looks like it's halfway between 2 and 3. Sorry about the lines here. It's about halfway through 2 and 3, and it's less than 0, but not quite -1. So, but I want the exact point. So I'm going to use the factored form to help me figure this out. So first of all, I need to factor this. So this is equal to something times something, or something plus something times something like this, right? So, and then I know from FOIL that if I multiply the first times the first, I'm going to get x squared. So that's got to be x. So now I'm looking for this number right here. Okay, so I'm going to use the product. So what numbers multiply together to give me 6? Well, I get 1, 2, 3, and 6, but also -1, -2, -3, and -6. Okay, their sum, these are the factors that multiply together to give me 6, and their sum must be equal to -5. So 1 times 6 is 6, but 1 plus 6 is 7, and that's not -5. 2 times 3 is 6, but 2 plus 3 is 5, that's not -5. -1 times -6 is +6, but -1 plus -6 is -7, and these ones work. Okay, so those work. All right, and let me just make this a little cleaner here. All right, so I can see that in its factored form, this is equal to x minus 2 and x minus 3. Now, I can also find the x intercepts from this. Okay, so the x intercepts are where does it cross the x-axis here. This is the x-axis. And you can see at the x-axis, y is equal to 0. So y is equal to 0 at the x-axis. So I can see that these points, 2 and 0 and 3 and 0, are where it crosses the x-axis. And that should make sense, because if I say that x is equal to 2, then I can substitute into this equation x is equal to 2, so it would be 2 minus 2 times 2 minus 3. Well, 2 minus 2 is 0, and then I would be multiplying that times -1. Well, that's y equals 0. Okay, and the same would hold true for when x is equal to 3. So if I substitute in 3 minus 2 times 3 minus 3, well, let's see, y is equal to 1 times 0. Okay, yes, that's also 0. Okay, now, something about parabolas is that they have kind of like two sides to them, and there is a line of symmetry that runs between them, and I get a mirror image on both sides of this line of symmetry. So if I can figure out what the line of symmetry is, by finding halfway between the x-intercepts, then what I can do is I can use that point to figure out what is the y-coordinate. So halfway between 2 and 3 is 2.5. So I'm going to substitute x equals 2.5 into this equation, and that should give me my y value. Okay, so let's see, 2.5 minus 2 and 2.5 minus 3. So 2.5 minus 2 is 0.5, and 2.5 minus 3 is -0.5. So y is going to be equal to -0.25. And that makes sense. You can see right there that it's about -0.25. So my vertex, the point of my vertex, is 2.5 and -0.25. All right, excellent. Okay, let's look at another example of this. So let's look at this equation here. So I've got x squared minus 4x minus 12. Okay, so I'm going to factor this. So factoring it. Okay, so x times x is x squared, so that's easy. Now I need to get all the factors of negative 12. Okay, so factors of negative 12. Well, 1 times negative 12 would be negative 12, but also negative 1 times 12 would be that. Okay, how about 2 times negative 6 would work, but also negative 2 times positive 6 would work, and then 3 times negative 4, and also negative 4 times, and also 3 times negative 4, but also negative 3 and negative 4 and positive 4. I keep making mistakes there. Okay, and 4. All right, good. So those are all the factors. So I have to kind of figure out which one's going to give me negative 4. So looking at factor pairs, if I do 1 times negative 12, that's negative 12, but negative 12 plus 1 is negative 11, so those two aren't going to work together. Negative 1 times 12 is going to give me negative 12, but 12 plus negative 1 is positive 11, so that's not going to work. 2 and negative 6, let's see, 2 times negative 6 is negative 12, and 2 plus negative 6 would be negative 4. Oh, those ones work. So those are my factors. That's what I need to put in here. Positive 2, and let me just erase this. This is going to be negative 6. All right. So I found my factors. And this is my factored form. Now, what I need to do is figure out what are the x intercepts of this thing. So that's when y is equal to 0. So I know y is equal to 0 times negative 2 minus 6 is going to be 0 because negative 2 plus 2 is 0, and multiplying that times negative 8 still gives me 0. Okay, so I see that one of my x-intercepts is going to be negative 2, 0. All right, when else is this equal to 0? Well, another time it's equal to 0 is when this thing's equal to 0. So how do I make something minus 6 equal to 0? Well, I'm going to add 6, right? So this time it would be 6 plus 2 times 6 minus 6. Okay, so 6 minus 6 is 0 times 6 minus 6 plus 2, which is 8. So I can see that that's also equal to 0. So my other y-intercept is 6 and 0. Sorry, x-intercept is 6 and 0. Okay, good. Now, what's halfway between these two numbers? Halfway between these two numbers would be adding them together. So I add them together and I divide that by 2. Okay, so adding them together, I end up with 6 plus negative 2, which is 4 divided by 2. So I know that the middle of my parabola is 2. So the x-coordinate is going to be 2. Now I need to figure out the y-coordinate. And to do that, I need to substitute into my equation. But let's substitute into the factored form because that's easier. So if we remember, this was x plus 2 and then x minus 6. Okay, so if I substitute in for 2, it's going to give me my y-coordinate. So let's see, if I go 2 plus 2 and then 2 minus 6. Okay, so y is equal to 4 times negative 4, which is equal to negative 16. So I can see that my y-intercept is negative 16. All right, so what we want to do now is just check that. Let's see if indeed that is the vertex. Okay, so here's the graph right here. So let's see, the bottom, my vertex, is right there. So that's at x equals 2. There's my 2, and y equals negative 16. So that is indeed correct. And that's how you use the factored form to help you find the vertex. Thank you for watching.